Hello, everyone. This is Coca Sexton. We're going to get started with today's Social Selling University webinar titled, Do You Want Better Customers? We'll start with better leads. For those of you that are new to Social Selling University, my name is Coca Sexton. I am the founder of Social Selling University, and I'm also an employee of InsideView. I manage the social strategy for the company, as well as how do we generate leads and create opportunities through social channels. I have a sales background, and I've moved into a marketing role based on my experience with leveraging social media within a sales environment. Today's guest speaker, we are honored with Mark Hunter's presence. Mark is the author of, it was multiple books, but High Profit Selling. For several years now, I came across him as I was learning about sales methodology, sales training, and trying to soak as much information as I could. And the Sales Hunter just happened to be a great resource for me. Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I sure can. Thank you so much for those comments. I very much appreciate it.
I appreciate all the work you put out. How did you come up with the Sales Hunter?
Well, my parents did a great job of giving me the last name Hunter. And when I was perusing the web, wanted to use the word Hunter, came up with sales. Well, Sales Hunter was taken, so we put a the in front of it, the Sales Hunter. You know, a lot of market research. The name has stuck ever since. It's been great.
Yeah, I mean, it's great branding. I mean, the Sales Hunter, this is what you do, right?
I'm just glad my last name wasn't Loser or something like that.
That would have changed the dynamics on everything.
Yeah, probably would not have worked as well.
That's awesome. So just for everybody else who's on the webinar, make sure that you join Social Selling University. Mark Hunter is a consistent contributor to the content in that site. He has a lot of stuff on his own blog. We syndicate a lot of it to our site that really focuses on sales methodology, sales training, and how to leverage social media as a salesperson, which I think is a growing trend, and many companies are trying to figure out how to make that happen. And after the webinar, everybody will receive a copy of our latest guidebook called The Blueprint to Sales Intelligence, a roughly 10, 15-page guidebook that kind of outlines how salespeople in this day and age with the new buyers should be going about finding new prospects, following those prospects, and bringing them into the funnel. So with that, what I will do is I'm going to hand control over to Mark Hunter.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And I think my screen should be up there. Is it up?
Almost.
Almost. Drum roll in the corner. It's up on mine.
Do you have the show screen button hit?
I sure do. And it says, yep, show my screen. You got it up on there?
Oh, there it is. There we got it.
Terrific. Hey, you know what? A little bit of suspense just adds a little more magic to the show. We're going to talk about want better customers, start with better leads. And, you know, what's very interesting is I get asked this question a lot. How do I come up with better leads? And my argument is, hey, you know what? You've probably already got good leads. You just don't know what you're doing with them. And more importantly, you're spending time on the wrong leads. So that's some of the things that we're going to kind of walk through here today. I'm going to kind of share with everyone, and let's kind of jump into it right off the bat. And one of the arguments that I love to say regarding if you want better customers, sometimes you have to get better yourself. There's a phrase that I like to use: leadership is sales, and sales is leadership. Now, what do I mean by this? I mean very simply this: the customer today has more options, and I know out on socialsellingu.com, the site, there's the excellent piece that I believe it's 60 or 69% of all customers do their research to decide what they buy before they call the salesperson. And that really, what that tells me is that the role of sales is changing. We have to be more of a leader in the marketplace than we've ever been before. I think many times salespeople viewed themselves as an order taker. Well, that may have worked up until 5 or 6 years ago. It doesn't work today. The argument I use is that we have to demonstrate leadership. And the best way to do this is by you asking yourself this question: Am I focused on my products or am I focused on my customer's business? That is a huge telling point. And what I find is this. Many salespeople, when they're out prospecting, they are totally focused on their product. And I'll say we got to flip this around. We have to be focused on our customer's business. When we get focused
Mark, why
on
do you think that is?
Well, I very simply because everything about our product is already out there on the web. It's already out there. People see it. So in other words, I've got to be able to bring new stuff to the table. In fact, really, that's my next slide. I mean, are you and your company Google proof? I mean, if you stop and really realize this data that you have out there on your site, the customer is doing the research on the web. I've got to make sure I've got the right message out there. Now, here's the challenge we get into. Too many salespeople believe that if I just put enough stuff out on the web, if I just do enough stuff, you know, the phone is going to ring and I'm going to be a happy camper. Sorry, that's not going to happen, cowboy. I mean, you know,
Do you still come across companies that have that problem where the salespeople really still believe that?
I run into this all the time. More importantly, this is the worst thing. I run into a lot of single entrepreneur, you know, very small company, 2, 3 employees, and they think they can win the sales war by just doing a lot of social media. Great. You know what? I mean, I'm all over social media. I'm all over it, but I don't use it as my only platform. You see, it's a platform that creates awareness. It's a platform that creates, you know, so to speak, awareness. It's like, for instance, how you found me, Coca, but it's not going to help me close the sale. It's not till we get dialoguing face-to-face on the phone, via email, some of these tools. So, you know, you really stop and ask yourself, are you Google-proof? What does the Internet say about you? And how are you using social media? Now, here's the real challenge we get into. A lot of people will sit there and say, okay, I've got all that, and I'm going to go ahead and bang out, and I'm going to get all kinds of leads because I'm going to start this unbelievable lead generation campaign. Sorry, cowboy, you're going to hit the dead-end street because don't start what you can't finish. Throwing out a bunch of lead generation tools singularly without a process or a plan is not going to get you anything. It's going to help you feel good for an evening. It may help you feel good for a day, but it's not going to generate the enduring success that you want. So what I like to say is that less is more when more becomes more, because what I'm saying is that I want to make sure that everything I'm doing on the web, whether it be social media, whether it be email, whether it be telephone, whether it be direct, however I'm doing my lead generation process, I have the ability to follow up and follow through, because when I do have the ability to follow up and follow through, then I get the money. This is a huge piece because, again, I watch a lot of salespeople. They will start a campaign. They'll get, excuse me, one phase through, and then they back off. And what I'll be talking you've got to be hitting your customer, your prospect, numerous times. Just yesterday I had a very good sales call with an individual who has been following me for a long time. Now, this person's been following me, okay, so they've been following me, but it wasn't until I reached out to them that we're now able to start to get the dialogue moving to the next level, you see. So I've got to be able to integrate as many of these tools as possible. Now, where does all this take us? Well, thinking about prospecting is not the same as prospecting. Last week, or no, 2 weeks ago, I was with a company, and it was unbelievable the number of salespeople I had a chance to interview and talk to. I won't say the company's name because everybody would recognize it. And I was amazed at how these people, oh yeah, we spend X amount of hours every day prospecting. And then when I really began drilling down and asking them what they're actually doing, all they're doing is sitting around thinking about prospecting. You see, this is part of the problem. People think about the plan, they're going to develop this plan, but they never actually pull the trigger and do it. You see, then when they actually do wind up pulling the trigger, what they do is they get themselves spraying who and what they're dealing with. You see, what I like to say is that prospecting is the discipline of saying no as much as it's the art of saying yes. Now, and I'm going to build on this as we go along here today, but this is really about using your own gut, your own metrics, and what you have seen work before in your company, in your organization, in your industry. But what I say is that a lot of people spend time, just because somebody has a pulse, somebody has a heartbeat, doesn't mean they're a prospect for you. So I got to be able to sort through this. I got to be able to separate this, so I know, where are the people that are just hanging out there, because I want to focus my time on fewer people. I'm going to be more successful in generating better leads and generating better customers when I focus the most valuable resource I have, which is my own time, on just those people that have the highest probability of being successful. Now, I've got up here 3 pictures of 3 different coffee places. Now, left-hand side, Starbucks. I have already had about 3 or 4 cups of Starbucks today. I'll probably have a couple more this afternoon. I love it. Then I've got a Greek Village Diner, and I've got Waffle House. Hey, now maybe some of you can relate to Waffle House. Maybe some of you can relate to Starbucks. Maybe some of you can relate to a diner in terms of coffee.
They don't even have Waffle Houses out in California.
Yeah, I don't think you have them out there, do you?
No, I have to go down to like Atlanta or down in the South somewhere to go.
There you go. There you go. And you know what? I bet you only see them at every off-ramp along the interstate freeway, right?
This is true. They're almost as prevalent as Starbucks out here on the West Coast.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, Waffle House. Now, we could do some jokes regarding Waffle House, but I'm not going to offend anybody who likes Waffle House coffee. All I can say is if I ever run out of motor oil in my car, I just go get Waffle House coffee. No, it's okay. That was bad. That was proof. I'm sorry. Okay. The whole deal, what I'm talking about here, is 3 different types of coffee, 3 different types of styles. You know what the style comes down to? Is your personality. Use your personality. I said earlier that the greatest asset you have in prospecting is time. Well, the second greatest asset you have is your own personality. Don't let your personality get hidden in how you prospect. Now, the reason I say this is because we have become a very uncommunicative society because of the internet, because of all these tools that we have to interface with in a nonverbal standpoint, nonverbal perspective. What I say is, hey, when I am communicating with you, I want to let my personality come through. Your personality is a tool. Use it. Now, the reason I also like to say use your personality is because when I'm using my personality, I'm more engaging with people, and I also have a lot more energy. And I have a much better ability to ascertain whether I say yes or whether I say no in terms of whether or not this is a lead I really should be following. You see, what it comes down to is that success is not a constant. I've got to earn it each and every day. Take this quote and tie it in with what I said earlier in terms of don't start what you can't finish. If I can't finish the race, I'm not going to start the race. I have to be able to do the whole thing. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to have a lead generation campaign that's going to take you all the way through. Now, let me share with you, because this is going to kind of blow some people's minds away, this next slide. The 3 coffee places back up, but here we go. Broad, tight, and target. Let me tell you something. What I found is the most effective lead development programs are really 3 separate lead development programs. One is broad, one is targeted, and one is tight. Let me use the example. Broad. Nobody has more coffee locations in the United States, in North America, around the world, than Starbucks. They are everywhere. If you go into an office building, you go into a cafeteria, you go on some of the airlines, you go anywhere you want, a mall location, anywhere you're going to find a Starbucks location. That's a broad reach campaign. And in lead generation, we have to have this is what I refer to as Google. This is what I refer to as the internet. This is the piece that people are using to create a little bit of that awareness. Okay, so I want to have that out there. But here's the problem: I can't win off just that. Okay, so now I've got over here on the right-hand side, Waffle House, targeted. Now, Koka, you already made the comment that there's no Waffle Houses in California. You're right, there aren't. But boy, if you go to the South anywhere from about Texas west, you're going to find a Waffle House on just about every interstate off-ramp, period. They're going to be there. They target themselves that very well. You see, now this is the next phase of how you should be prospecting. There are people that you are going to have on your target list, and you're going to be targeting them through various messages that you're going to be sending them. It's a specific message to them, but it's just targeted. You're still reaching kind of a broad audience. Now we get down to the single location, the Greek Village restaurant in the Bronx. Tight. This is one-to-one. If you want Greek Village coffee, you got to go to the Greek Village restaurant in the Bronx, period. That's it. That's the only place you're going to get this. Now, this is the tight. This is the phone call. This is the very, very specific messaging that you're doing. And what I'm going to suggest is that in order for you to be successful in terms of prospecting, in terms of developing leads, you have to be able to play in all three of these arenas: broad, targeted, and tight. I'm going to walk you through here, and I'm going to share with you in about the next 35 to 40 minutes strategies you can use in the tight and the target. We're not going to so much mess with the broad, because that's really the internet. That's your big stuff. That might be your newsletters. That might be your advertising. That might be whatever your company does to create that branded message. What we're going to be focusing on is the tight and the target, because what I want to do is I want to take leads that I've got, and I want to turn them into revenue-generating customers. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Rule number one, suspects versus prospects. I have to treat everybody I have as a suspect first. They are a suspect before they become a prospect. Now, let me back this up. Everybody in the broad arena is a suspect. They're just suspect. Many, many people in my target, people in my tight list, are prospects. Now, that's a very key critical piece, because I want to be able to spend my time only with those people. So now, how do I determine the difference? What really is the difference? Well, the difference is this: prospect versus suspect. It comes down to proprietary information. I've got to be able to jump the fence with you to be able to know whether or not you want to do business with me. Now, what this means, proprietary information, it means you are sharing with me something confidential. Here's what I found. If I'm talking to you on the phone and I think you might be a potential customer of mine, but I can't get you to reveal any confidential information, any real confidential information with me, then guess what? You are only listening to me. That's all you're doing. You're listening to me. You may be listening to me because you've made up your mind to go someplace else. You might do something else. I don't know what it is, but you really are not interested in buying from me. It's only until you provide me with confidential information. Now, what do I mean by confidential information? This means something that is not known publicly about either the person I'm talking to or the company I'm talking to. Now, is this bulletproof? No, it's not bulletproof. But what I have found in about 90% of all industries out there, this is probably the best indicator that this person is a prospect I can use. Because think about this. Is a company going to share with you confidential type of information unless they're serious about doing business with you? Now, some people say, Mark, oh boy, if I don't engage with you until after you've shared this with me, I may wind up losing a lot of potential leads. And I say, no, you don't, because what you're doing is you're keeping them in your target arena. You're keeping them in your target arena. And I'll get to the target arena in terms of how we reach those. You're still reaching out to those people, but not with the frequency and not with the duration and the depthness, so to speak, that I am with the people that are in my tight prospecting arena. And that's a huge difference here. Now, the reason I also like this is because once you've given me something confidential, I now have an added piece of information I can begin playing back to you. Now, there's a couple of other pieces that I like to say. I also view, in terms of suspect versus prospect, is that have they been willing to give to me an element of time? Have they shared with me What is the time frame that they're going to use to make a decision? Have they shared with me some sort of perspective as to how time works? That's a key indicator and can also be a piece of confidential information. But see, these are all pieces that help us understand. Now, here's the beautiful thing with this. I can't normally get to this level in terms of getting confidential information out of you until I've demonstrated to you leadership and I've demonstrated to you my personality. In other words, I've shared with you that I'm a little more than just a village idiot who is reading stuff off the web. You see, what it comes down to is our goal with each person we meet is to earn the right, the privilege, the honor, and respect to meet with the person again. Take this little screenshot and put this above your desk. Put this by your phone. Here's a beautiful thing. You know, in our business as salespeople, we're talking to a lot of people, and we face no an awful lot of times. But I'll tell you what, this little phrase I use and I keep with me at all time, because, you know, at the end of the day, what my goal is to earn the right, the privilege, honor, and respect to be able to meet with that person again. And if I do that, you know what's going to happen? They're going to share with me that confidential information. They're going to share with me the timeline with which they're looking to make a decision. They're going to help me do those things. And I find that just an incredibly powerful piece. Now, hey, let's talk now about a simple prospecting tip. Let's put something out on the table. Use web links. I'll tell you what, if there's one thing I want everybody to walk out of this webinar with today, it's using this tool. This tool, it's simple. It is so simple, and I don't know why more people don't do it. Now, what is a web link? What this means is all I'm doing is I'm taking the link to some article or some piece of information that I saw on the web, and I am doing a copy and paste, putting it into an email, and I'm sending it to somebody to have them take a look at it. Now, here's the beautiful thing about this. It's not selling you. You see, you're not focused on your product, you're focused on your customer's business. Huge piece here. Let me give you an example. Just the other day, I do some work in the transportation arena. I do some work with some transportation companies, and I happened to see an article online that talked about some of the changes and some of the challenges of hiring drivers, hiring people. In fact, it's interesting because then I saw another article on the web dealing with the Panama Canal. Boom. You know what I did was I simply did a quick cut and paste, and I cut and paste clients and a couple prospects I had, and I sent the other article to a couple other clients and a couple other projects. Beautiful and very simple. All I did was say, saw this article, you might be interested. Very simple, very easy. Now, this is a great tool to use with your tight people. Now, here's why I like using with tight people. Tight people, you probably have been able to develop an email relationship with, okay? You're doing a little bit of exchanging of emails. You haven't been able to get to a sale yet or anything. Now, the reason I like this is because if I email somebody who I have never had contact with a web link, sometimes depending on how their spam filter works, it's going to move it to junk, you see. So again, these are some of the criteria. And believe me, there is no specific criteria regarding what spam filters are. Spam filters are like saying the average temperature. There's no such thing as an average temperature. An average temperature is made up of a whole bunch of highs and lows. So again, what I prefer to use is use this with people who I maybe have had a little bit of exchange of emails with. Now, what are some types of web links I use? Well, knowledge, industry, news. SocialSellingU.com, Social Selling University. Great website, knowledge website. You can go out there, you can grab, say you're reading an article real quick, you say, hey, that is really going to help this person over here. Fine, do a copy and paste. Say, hey, saw this article, thought it might be of interest. I can do this with knowledge sites, any different knowledge sites. Then I can use industry sites. Now, one of the biggest things that I have found is that typically as salespeople, we're selling to a multitude of industries, okay? Or even if we deal only in one industry, that's okay. But what I find is our customers don't have time to stay up on all the industry knowledge. So fine, you jump out there, you follow a couple industry sites, and you just do a quick copy and paste, and you send it to them. And then there's news sites. News sites. Now, I'll share with you the news sites that I monitor on a regular basis. It's WSJ.com, it's the Wall Street Journal. I monitor CNBC.com. I monitor Bloomberg.com and Reuters.com. Now, I like Bloomberg and also Reuters. The reason being is because not as many people follow those sites. So when I send a link to somebody, they go, ooh, this guy's really smart. But I'll tell you what, you do this simple thing, and I guarantee it, you're going to have success. I'll share with you an example I use. Here's a very simple way that I use this, a little bit of a variation, but I want to share this with you. I had set up a Google alert for various companies that I want to follow. These are tight customers, tight prospects that I have. I'm not going to do this with Target. I'm not going to do this with Broad, just with tight. But I set up a Google alert, and there was a particular COO, Chief Operating Officer of a company I wanted to get in touch with. And I tried to reach out to him. I tried to reach out, and I've been trying multiple different ways. Was not having success. Suddenly, I got a Google alert that this company had acquired a very small company. So what did I do? I very simply took that. I took the link with the news release, and I copied it, and I put it into an email. Now, what I did was I changed the email just slightly. I'm going to share with you exactly how I did so I could make sure it got through the spam filter. One, the subject line was just the name of the company they acquired. In the text, in the body, what I wrote was, congratulations on purchasing the new company. I've got some other information you might be interested in. Now, what was very interesting, I had no link. I took the link and I just twisted. I got an email back from him about 3 hours later. He was interested. We had a meeting. He's a client of mine today. Powerful little tool. You use this tool. You use this tool, and I guarantee it, you will have a return on investment that will supersede almost any other activity you can do. Now, here's one little piece. As you do this, make sure you record it in your CRM system, because what will happen is that you may get attracted to one type of article, and you might be pummeling a few of your leads more than others. So make sure you're tracking it in your CRM system and realize that this just complements the other pieces that you are doing. Now, let's move on here, and let's talk about really what is it that we have to be doing. Well, we have to first be able to create 5 to 8 value benefit statements or questions. Now, it's not the process, it's the result. Keep your focus on it. This is absolutely, if you can't take what you do and come up with 5 to 8 value benefit statements or questions, you don't really have a prospecting plan. Now, for instance, I wrote the book High Profit Selling. One of the things that we talk about in high profit selling is how to avoid the discount. So one of the value, so to speak, statement questions that I love to ask is, what now, remember, benefits are not benefits until the customer. You have to be able to, I get you in, and if you don't engage, fine, I go to something else, but I'm ready. Now, let's talk, because one of the things I want to talk about here today is how do you use email, how do you use voicemail, how do you do some of these things. So, hey, here's a real, this again is going to get you the ROI that you've got. You know what the problem we have in sales is that we develop our prospecting emails on a computer and our customers read them on a smartphone. Big, big difference. Big problem we have. We have to be able to sit there and say, if I'm writing this on my computer and I'm sending this to you, which is typically how we do our prospecting, because we're sitting at our laptop, we're sitting, okay, we're focused, we're writing great stuff. But the problem is our customer, our prospect, is looking at it on their smartphone. And here's what I found. People who are checking their email on their smartphone are looking to eliminate email, not read it. They're looking to eliminate, not read. Because think about it. People check email as they walk down the hall. People check email as they come out of a meeting. As they do. And what do? They are going through just wiping out, eliminating as rapidly as possible, just trying to get down to those couple messages that they know they have to look at. So here's the key piece. Now again, every smartphone is set up differently. When I'm doing workshops, when I'm doing training sessions, I love having people break out their smartphones and see how their various settings are. But what I found is that I want to have the title engage in 3 words. 3 words. Now, your smartphone may show 6 or 7 words in the title. I don't know. It may show 10. I don't know. So I say, you know what? I just got to get it down to about 3 words. And the body, because again, like on my smartphone, I happen to have an iPhone, it shows me about the first 60 or 70 or 80 characters. That's it. It's not words, it's characters. So I got to make sure that first 60 or 80 characters that's valuable real estate. That is very, very important real estate. So think about this. I craft my email. I'm sending out an email to a prospect, to my tight list, or it could be to my target list. I'll show you the difference here in a bit. And ooh, this is great. Oh, wow, this is good. I can just smell money coming on. I smell the money coming on it. Sorry, cowboy. Guess what? It doesn't look good on a smartphone because you spent the first 60 characters saying, hello, Bob Martin. My name is da-da-da-da-da-da. Guess what? Delete. Delete. I've got to be able to engage. Engage in 3 words. Price discount records. First 60 characters. What percent sales being discounted? You see what I'm doing now? I don't know if that comes out to 60 characters. I'm trying to play off the same value benefit statement I shared with you earlier. But you begin to get the idea. I got to have it tight. I got to have it very focused. When I do, I guarantee it, you're going to be far more effective. Because what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to, when emailing is part of my prospecting strategy, I got to create emails that are going to create awareness. So now let's jump over to voicemail. Oh, guess what, folks? Voicemail is a great lead generation tool. Don't run from it. Now, I've gotten into some arguments with some of my wonderful friends in sales who talk about prospecting, and we get into some arguments. I'm going to share with you my philosophy, and I'll share it with you because it's worked. Here's what this is. First of all, don't sit there and go and leave the 30, 40-second voicemail message. You idiot. Get back on the short bus. It's not going to work. You have to be able to leave a voicemail message that's between 11 and 14 seconds. And oh, by the way, if you haven't left yourself a voicemail message, again, you're doing yourself a disservice. Just like you got to check your email out you send on your own smartphone, you've got to check your voicemail out as how it comes across in your own voicemail. So what I say is this. 3 criteria. I want to have 11 to 14 second voicemail message, period. I want to leave my phone number twice. That's it. And I want to leave a unique statement. Now here's the problem. 402-445-2110. Sorry, that is not the way you leave the phone number. It's 402-445-2110. Now, that took quite a bit of time. You see what I'm saying here? By the time you leave your phone number twice, that's eating up most of your time. So what you have to do is you have to be able to have a very tight, unique statement that you can say. Now let's pick up on some of the things that I've been talking about earlier. Okay, here's the way this works. Bob, Mark Hunter, the sales hunter, got some information on how to avoid price discounting. You see? My unique statement was have some information on how to avoid price discounting, period. And I leave my phone number, 402-445-2110. Again, Mark Hunter, 402-445-2110. Now, I'm not sure if that was 14 seconds. I could probably get that. But you see what I'm saying? It's just got to be tight. You do that. Now, here's the challenge. The unique statement you leave, you have to leave a different unique statement every time. Don't sit down. You can leave multiple voicemail messages with either a target or a tight, but you have to be able to make sure it's a different one. So go back to that list of 5 to 8 value statements. You see? Now you've got the rotation series that you can go through. Okay, let's keep moving along here because here's a real, I love this approach. This approach, and again, I'm giving you different techniques depending on what industry, what arena you need. This is a great process. Minimum speed, 6 mpm. I don't know what kind of car that is. I have a feeling it probably doesn't even do 6 miles per hour. But anyway, 6 mpm. This is messages per month. If I'm in a shorter sales cycle business, and I'm in a business where it's basically a 1 or 2, maybe 3 call process, and I can get a sale. In other words, 1, 2, or 3 calls after I've made connection with you. This approach works very good. What this means is that I'm gonna hit you with 6 messages in a single month, and my first message is going to be, we'll say, on the 1st. My next message is going to be on maybe the 3rd. My next message is going to be on the 7th. My next message is going to be on maybe the 13th. My next message is going to be on maybe the 20th. My next message is going to be on maybe the 28th. You see what I'm doing? I'm spreading out each message just a little bit longer. Now, are they all voicemail? No. Oh, but you notice I said voicemail? Because let's not kid ourselves. 90% of all calls, 95% of all calls wind up going into voicemail. That's fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave a voicemail. I'm going to leave an email. I might leave a second email. I might come back and do another voicemail. I might do it. I'm going to give the customer a variety. Here's what I found. I use this strategy with people that I have targeted, and they quickly become tight. This is a great target strategy to use. I'm going to take 30 names that I'm going to say I'm going to target, okay? 30 names. And I'm going to do this 6 mpm. And what I can do is I can work my way through here, and then boom, I've got, after that month, again, they're not going to be really reaching out to you until you get to call 5 or 6. But you get to call 5 or 6 or message 5 or 6, and you're going to wind up with 3 or 4 that you're going to wind up having some good serious discussion with. Then boom, then they drop into your tight. Now, let's put that one aside, because again, I got a whole bunch more that I want to continue to share here with you, and I'm afraid we're going to run out of time here. So let's jump to what I call the 12 by 12. This is a great approach for the target people. Okay, now you've got target, and you've got senior level people. Now this might be CEOs, this might be COOs. These are this might be VPs of sales. This is senior level people for large opportunities. Now, I call it 12 by 12 for one very simple reason. Don't put more than 12 people on your list, and you're going to do it for 12 months. Now, the way this works is very simple. I'm going to identify 12 people. Now, I do have to have the contact. I do have to know who they are, but think about it. Out on the web, and again, InsideView, great tools out there with which you can use to be able to generate who that specific target person is. But what I want to do is I want to be able to say, I'm going to send you a message every month for 12 months. Now, the message is not about how wonderful I am and how wonderful my products are. No. Demonstrate sales leadership. Demonstrate leadership. Demonstrate leadership by talking about the customer's business, their business. What I might do is this. I might one month send this, say it's a VP of sales, because that's who I tend to target of a very large company. I might send them a link to a great article that I read on some website. Okay? I might send them a link. Hey, thought you might be interested in that. Fine, boom. I don't know if they're going to get that. That's okay. Next month, I could send them a handwritten postcard that says, hey, congratulations on your third quarter earnings. Just saw them. Great. Boom. I send that to them. Next month, I might call them, and sure enough, I get voicemail. That's okay. I get voicemail, and I leave them a message regarding something. Okay? But every month what I'm doing is I'm sending them some message that, yes, it introduces me. It introduces me, Mark Hunter, the sales hunter. But what I'm doing is I'm pushing the focus onto them, because I want them to see me as somebody different. Because here's what I found. When I'm developing leads at the senior level, it is all about trust. It is all about trust. They want to know that they can trust you, and if they trust you, then they will be willing to engage with you. So what I found is I do this 12 by 12 approach. 12 senior level people, one message a month for 12 months. In fact, I've been making this guarantee for about 10 years, and I have never once paid out money. It's that bulletproof. It works that good. But here again, I'll make this guarantee to you. You do this process, and I'll tell you what, if after 1 year you are not actively engaged in serious sales negotiation with one of those 12 customers, I'll pay you $100. I will pay you $100 if you do this for a year with 12 people and you are not actively engaged with at least one of them. Now, one of the reasons I say to only use 12 is because if you get going with 30 or 40, it's going to take too much time. Just focus on 12. Stay with large opportunities. This is an absolute terrific way. Now, one of the ways that you can use to enhance it is I might use the 12 by 12 as my approach with which to penetrate, like I said, the VP of sales or the CEO. It does not stop me from still making phone calls into people at other levels of the organization. I may very well keep my prospecting strategy up with other people from multiple points. It's the same way battles are fought. Battles are not fought by all the troops going through one way. No, they're fought on multiple fronts, the same approach. Now, let's again shift the gears a little bit, and let's talk about how we can generate new leads based off our existing customers. We don't do, and when I say we, I mean we in sales, just don't do a good enough job of really developing referrals. So what I've developed, what I'm going to share with you here, is what I call the 3 Blitz referral strategy. Now, I've got 3 months listed there, April, August, and December. Now, you can use whatever months you want. April, August, and December, I have just found really work well. So what do? Well, it might be the month of April, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call all of my customers. And this is the exact way this conversation goes. Our company is having a referral blitz month. So I'm calling all of my customers, looking to ask them for the names and the introductions to several people who might be interested. You are flat out, straight out, up front saying, hey, I've been asked by my manager, I've been asked by my boss to contact all my customers. We're having a blitz referral strategy, and I'm just following through on what he asked me to do, and I'd like to. You come right out and you say, you know what, surprisingly enough, people give you referrals. I am amazed when you are right up front with this. It is amazing how people will be very keen. They'll say, hey, you know what, that's amazing. I've gotten unbelievable comments back. When we've put this in place with various companies, we have had an unbelievable level of success. So that's how you use April. Now, August, I'm going to call people up, and my conversation this time is going to be centered around, I really just want to do some quality control, making sure everything's working right with you, making sure, and what I'm doing is I'm getting them into a dialogue about how wonderful we are as a company to them, okay? Hey, how did you like the service we did? How did you like the product you're using? Whatever it might be. But I'm getting them talking about it. Now, there's a little bit of a risk here with this, is that they may tee up, okay? They may tee up to you some things that you've got to go back and work on, okay? But that's okay. I mean, in my book, that's fine. That's great, because that's going to enhance the customer relationship. But then what I can do is these customers will sit there and say, oh, yeah, hey, it's great. Boom, boom, boom. We're doing this, this, and this. And it's great, great, great. And you say, well, that's super. That's super. Hey, you know what? Do you know the names of some other people who might like also? Who might like this also? You see what I've done? I've now used a different approach with which to get referrals. And again, I'm going to wind up getting a whole additional set of names. And I'm doing this with the exact same companies that I called in April. But I have a different strategy, and I get additional names. And I'll tell you what, anytime you get a referral name, that is a good lead. That moves right to your target list, and very quickly you're going to move them into your tight list. Yeah.
Mark,
now,
I have a question about this.
Sure, jump in.
So first off, one of the questions that came through in the chat was, why don't you feel that more salespeople are doing this? Is it uncomfortable? Is it they don't have any training? What do you find in your experience as to why?
I think they're just scared. They don't have any training because they're not willing to be leaders out there. They are really, the number one part left out of any sales presentation is the close. Why? Because people are afraid of being rejected. People are afraid of asking for referrals because they're afraid they're going to be rejected. And what I say is this: if I go in confidently and competently with a plan, and I'm using my personality, and I'm showing them leadership, they are going to give me names. But it blows my mind away. And I've had this discussion with salespeople of Fortune 100 companies all the way down to very small companies, and it always is the same. We don't do a good job.
And the second part of that question is it better to go and say, hey, just give me some names, or is it in the salesperson's best interest to spend the extra 15, 20 minutes and find some people that they may be able to get referred into that they already know they're doing business with?
Good question. You know what? I'm going to ask you to kind of explain it to me one more time, if you don't, because I could go with that about 5 different directions, and I want to make sure I go.
So, what you were just speaking to in the application was that, you're calling these prospects or your customers. You're calling your existing customers 3 times a year, and you're trying to get referrals from them. And the way you positioned it was, hey, do you know anybody else that might be interested in my product or service?
Right.
Is it also a best practice to say, hey, John, I'm glad everything is going great. Would you mind making an introduction to these 3 other companies that I know you do business with also, and tell them how happy you are with me and maybe get me in the door?
Oh, yeah. By all means. If you can get them to make you the introduction, that's even better. That's really what you want to get, because you want them to send the email or them to pick up the phone, them to introduce you. Now,
just leveraging connections. Actually, you've seen that this has actually a higher potential of getting a new opportunity versus just going after some new target.
Right. But what I have found is that sometimes people will say, hey, I'll give you these names, but I don't have time to follow up with them. Please don't ask me to, but you can use my name. Minimally you want to say, hey, can I use your name? Sure, fine, go, boom, done. But I mean, I've been with some, and I know I've been asked that, hey, do you have some referrals? And I'll give them referrals. They say, hey, would you mind calling them? And I say, you know what, I'd be happy to, but I can't get to it for a couple of weeks. Fine, just can I at least use your name? Great, use your name. Anytime I can do that.
What we do internally here at InsideView is, if we find a connection to a company with a customer that we already have, we'll actually craft the email and just send it off to that prospect, and we'll give them a heads up, like, hey, I'm glad everything's going well. Would you, I'd like an introduction to this other company I know you do business with. Why don't I send you an email just asking for the introduction? You can just forward it along. That way, the connection is actually getting the email from somebody they know, but they're making that introduction for you. It takes them 20 seconds.
That is huge. That's a wonderful, wonderful approach. Wonderful approach. Yeah. And I just apologize. I'm not that organized to be able to do that in my own referral process. So that's good. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Now let's jump to the 3rd time of the year, December. Perfect time of the year to be prospecting is the last 2 weeks of the year and the week of Thanksgiving, because people many times tend to be on vacation, and people tend to be out of the norm, out of sync, so to speak. And it's amazing how many people will pick up the phone and talk to you that time of the year. I tell salespeople, unless your industry is one that you can't reach out during the month of December, don't take vacation time at the end of the year. Use that as some valuable time to be out there prospecting, because people will pick up and talk to you. Now, here's the reason I like calling in December. I like calling existing customers in December. Hey, thank you so much. Hey, you know what? We're just so thankful for the year's business, and you just get talking to them about how appreciative you are of them and so forth. And again, then you can sit there and ask them for referrals. But you do this on just a 3-step process, 3 times a year. And you can, I've got some companies that have been doing this now for probably 3-4 years. And every time they keep getting new names. It keeps working. Anyway, hey, let's keep moving along here. Let's just share with you real quick the 8 rules of prospecting. First of all, the telephone is the #1 tool. Don't go thinking that I can do all my prospecting off of email. Well, that's the only way they like to talk is by way of email. No, it means probably what it means is they don't like talking to you. I firmly believe the telephone's the #1 tool. 2, networking is not I'm going to be networking, that's fine, but I've got to take those networking connections I'm making and move them into prospect. I've got to move them into that arena where I go from broad to target to tight. Now, third piece there, schedule time. The vast majority of salespeople I run into don't have a scheduled time each day or each week. Now, does that mean I'm only maybe 3 hours a day? I don't know what it is, but you have to do it. Multiple tools, targeted message, voicemail, email, social media, and a targeted message. Your targeted message is going to be much more effective than a broad message. Now, as the prospect moves from target to tight, because they've shared with you some proprietary information, then my messages can get even more. Focus, focus, focus. Don't sit there and spray and pray. It's not going to happen. It's not going to work for you. 6, quality of the benefit statement. Take time to craft. Take time. Develop them. Redevelop them. Always keep measuring the impact of the benefit statements you use, because they're going to continue to evolve. They're going to continue to change. Number 7, cold calling does work. Now, please, cold calling, there really is no such thing as cold calling, because nobody I call is an absolute cold call. I've got a reason to call you, and I've also done some homework on you, and I've got some information about you. Why? Because the World Wide Web, it's a wonderful tool. So really, it's not so much cold calling as it's warm calling, but I use the term cold calling because it's a person who I haven't yet actively had an engaging discussion with. Number 1, it's up to you. You drive your leads. Don't blame marketing. I hate it when salespeople sit there and blame marketing when they say, well, if marketing would just give us good leads, then we could close more sales. Well, guess what? You know what? Marketing is sitting there saying, hey, you know what? If sales could just close the leads we got them, we could be a lot better off. Don't worry about what marketing gives or does not give you. It's up to you. You go out and you drive your own leads and realize that less is more. Keep yourself tight. Keep yourself focused. And when you do, you're going to be incredibly more successful. Now, sales is having the desire to succeed and the passion to serve. I tell you what, there is no profession that is more a kick in the pants than sales. And I use this phrase a lot. Bad salespeople have skinny kids. Bad salespeople have skinny kids. Because you know what? We can make a lot of money in sales. We can be very successful in sales if we have the desire to succeed and the passion to serve. And that's what I like about Social Selling University. That's what I like about using the tools that are out there with Inside View, because they give you the ability to marry all this into whatever your social media platform is. And then guess what? You can create that broad message, which you then kind of move into target, which you can then move into the tight. Now I'm going to turn it back over to Coca here in just a second here, but I'll tell you what, I've got more stuff. I got a free ebook out on my website. If you want to just jump out there, download it, it's there for you. And of course, a lot of the stuff I talk about here today comes out of my book. Back over to you. You may have some questions, you may have some thoughts, you may have some comments. It's yours.
Yeah, well, thanks. I mean, this was really good information. You know, I have a million questions. You know, there's a few questions that have come through in regard to the chat. If you have any additional ones for the people who are on the webinar, feel free to type them in, but I'll run through the ones that we have right now. Can you go over again the section or just the talk track around how often should you be communicating with, how many connection attempts should you be making before you move on to the next guy?
Yes. If I'm in the target phase, I can leave you in the target phase forever. This might be a good company that I just haven't found a way to really connect with you, and I could be sending you a message every 3 to 4 weeks. I could be doing that for a good couple years. When I move you into the tight phase, I use this whole rule of 6. Now, I laid it out to you as 6 messages per month. It might be 6 over a 2-month phase, but I look to do this. If you haven't generated some sort of interest in me after 6 messages, then I'm going to move you back over to that target list. I'll still connect with you occasionally, but I'm not going to pull you back in and waste my time on you for probably several months. Then I'll pull you back in, and I may run you through the process again. I like to go 6. Some people say go to 7 or 8. Probably depends on your respective business and the selling cycle, the buying cycle, so forth. But I found 6 is kind of a good indicator.
Outstanding. All right, and one more question that just came through is, regards to using content, and you gave some amazing examples on how to use knowledge content, how to use industry content, news. When you're going into your process, if you're going to your prospect, you're trying to share this information to make yourself a thought leader, to make a resource to them as opposed to being a salesperson. Have you found, in your experience, the ability to go, into different channels? Are you doing this all through email? Are you doing some of it by phone? Or, I mean, it might be a little difficult over the phone, but you can still do it. But do you see that changing your approach to the individual is more responsive versus just getting them with emails, or how do you see it in your expertise here?
When I'm doing the email, when I'm doing the link from a website, I typically do it by way of an email. Now, now I may follow up a couple days later and say, hey, did you see that link? I may call them a couple days later and say, hey, did you see that link? And boy, it's absolutely fascinating. I'd love to get your perspective on it. I might follow it up with a voicemail or a phone call 2 or 3 days later. But I generally almost always start, unless it's some burning issue. I'll give you an example. I was prospecting with a company that I wanted to do business with, and I turned on CNBC one particular morning, and their competitor had just reported dismal earnings. I mean, just flat out through the floor earnings. I immediately picked up the phone and called the person over there and say, hey, I don't know if you saw this, but man, I just saw that X company just reported their earnings were down, boom, boom, boom. Just wanted to make sure you were aware of that and be curious to get your thoughts on that. And
yeah, one of the great things about our application within the watch list, the trigger alerts, is that you're able to get this information. And one of the best practices that we found, and a lot of our customers in the high-tech space, and I think that's a lot more advanced when it comes to social selling and leveraging social media,
right,
is that we'll do the same thing. We'll send emails like, hey, did you see this article? Sometimes it's about
yeah.
But we'll also, most of our salespeople are also connecting with their prospects and our customers within the social atmosphere. So they're sending the stuff to them in these other areas, and they're starting to see that some of them are a lot more responsive, or some days during the week, it's very easy to get a hold of them on a social network versus sending them an email. But they know that
right,
email is also a relevant way of going about it, so they'll send them an email also. But they hit them from different areas just to get them engaged.
Yeah. Social media, I found, works very good on Sundays. Sundays, I found I can send out. It is amazing because people are kind of, they're kind of checking email, kind of checking stuff, kind of spending some time on the web, and boy, it's amazing how social media can work absolutely terrific on a Sunday, or really, and for that matter, anytime there's a 3-day weekend. I kind of joke. I call it the Hampton effect. The Hamptons, great place out on Long Island where a lot of people this time of year during August are heading to every weekend. And it's that Hampton effect where they're a little kind of laid back on a Sunday afternoon before heading back into the city, and they're just kind of going through email, going through the web. But I found social media, 3-day weekends, and Sundays works great.
And one last question before we close up here, because this is actually a good question. Jeff just put this in, is how hard do you press your existing customers for referrals? Because it always gets tricky. And where in the client process do you ask for it? Do you ask for it after you get the deal, or are you asking for it, is it the best practice to do it after the deal, or should you wait a certain amount of time?
I like to ask for, now again, it depends on whether or not you're a product or a service. I ask for it in my own business because I sell a service right up front. I say, hey, here's what we're going to do, and oh, by the way, along with this, I'm going to ask that you give me 3 referrals. Because what I found is that, customers are going to talk about you whether you're good or bad. Now, if you're a product, it might be that, hey, you wait till 2 weeks after it's delivered or it's been installed or whatever. So again, you got to kind of go with what your industry, what your product, what your service is, because you want the customer to be able to benefit from it first. But don't hesitate in a few weeks and asking you for some referrals. Don't hesitate to ask that up front.
Outstanding. All right. And Mark, again, thank you so much. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming through in the chat box just saying this was an amazing webinar. Thank you, Mark. I don't know, you know, I can't even get to most of the questions because there's just a lot of outpouring of appreciation. I mean, I got value out of this, and I'm sure that a lot of the attendees did as well. So thank you, Mark. And for all of you, make sure you go to thesaleshunter.com, get Mark's book. It's an amazing book. There's a lot of information you learn from it. Go to Social Selling University, sign up for Social Selling University. You'll get Mark's content, some of the stuff in there, and then a wider breadth of how to leverage social media and other sales tips and sales tools. So Mark, thank you again. And with that, we're going to sign off.
Thank you so much, and great selling.